Hi, I'm George Cox for this edition of Talk of the Town. We hope you had a great St. Patty's weekend. Coming up on today's show, Orange Door Kitchen, a tour of the water waste facility here in Acton, Mercury in retrograde, and right after the break, find out all about Kelly's Corner with Kristen Guichard from the Planning Department.
Hi, I'm Kristen Guichard from the Acton Planning Department, and I'm here today at the open house for the Kelly's Corner Infrastructure Project. This open house is geared towards Acton residents, business owners, and property owners to learn more about the infrastructure project and to view the updated plans.
Between 2014 and 2016, the Planning Department held 38 to 40 community meetings, and various concepts for the design of Kelly's Corner were discussed. One was to do some very minor repairs to the sidewalks, to the intersection, to the bike lanes. On the other extreme was really opening up the road, widening it to make it look like a Route 9 intersection. Both of those proposals got little to no support during the community meetings. What emerged, and emerged overwhelmingly, was the concept that we have now, a complete streets concept of an intersection improvement that will reduce congestion, wait times, and emissions, and that's through turn lanes in part. And it will make the traveling through the intersection a lot safer and a lot more predictable.
Good afternoon. I'm Detective Chris Prale. I'm the safety officer for the Town of Acton Police Department. I've been with the police department for the past 30 years. So today we're going to talk about our Kelly's Corner plan, and we're going to focus in on the accessibility with Kelly's Corner. As you see the existing conditions today, we have a lack of traffic lights, ADA compliance. Some of our sidewalks are not. Some of our sidewalks have telephone poles in the middle of it. We lack sidewalks on either side of the road, and there are large objects, once again, making our sidewalks impassable for people. In the middle right here, you're going to see what the artist rendering is going to look like in front of the Hosmer House on Main Street. See, we have sidewalks on either side of the street. There's street lights. There's trees on both sides. We have raised islands in the middle of the road with a pedestrian refuge area. And our pedestrian crosswalks are going to be the safety crosswalks that are signalized, like in front of Town Hall on Main Street. Press the button and get across a lot safer for the people. Also, there's bike lanes going through this. This project isn't about one intersection or one crosswalk or one area. It's about everything. We're taking all the streets in Kelly's Corner area and all the intersections and combining them to make a safe area for our pedestrians, for our bicyclists, and for our motorists to go through. And once again on this, we're even going to have bike lanes that are going right through this whole project on Main Street and on Mass Ave. The 2.2 miles of new, wider sidewalks, utility poles will be relocated, signalized crossing including audible and visual pedestrian alerts. All sidewalks will meet ADA accessibility standards and reduce and narrow driveways. So some of the driveways throughout this project, there's multiple driveways going out. We're going to put those down to one driveway to make it a lot easier and less confusing and tie up traffic. So the improvements, as I said, we're going to have 5 new crosswalks, the rapid flash beacons, just like we have outside of Town Hall. The pedestrian refuge islands gives a safe place for the pedestrians to wait if they get stuck in the middle of the road. It gives them something to stand in instead of in the middle of traffic. As I said, 2.2 miles of new sidewalks. The designated bike lanes, which makes it great, so you're not wondering when you're driving in your car who gets the road, the bike, me, or what do I do? Signalization of Charter Road at Mass Ave. Signalization of Community Lane at Mass Ave, which Community Lane is that no-name road that runs to Roach Brothers out to CVS. And traffic calming street trees and raised pedestrian islands. The raised pedestrian islands and the trees just aren't for beautification. Studies have shown that makes you want to slow down and you know that the area, something is going on. So we feel this is a great plan. It hits everybody, as I said before. It hits the motorists, the pedestrians, and the cyclists. It's a win-win in the safety aspects for this project. Thank you.
The Kelly's Corner Infrastructure Improvement Project includes an improved streetscape and incorporates a cohesive design plan throughout the entire project area. Today, in Kelly's Corner, there's no defined streetscape and no defined landscaping. In the proposed plan, there will be a cohesive theme throughout the project area, with street trees on both sides of the roadway, decorative buffers of either decorative pavers or grass landscaping, and there will also be an organized pattern of street trees and raised landscaped islands at each approach into Kelly's Corner on both sides of Massachusetts Avenue and Main Street. One of the goals of the Kelly's Corner Infrastructure Project is to improve efficiencies for all users, for the motorist, the bicyclist, and the pedestrian. The Kelly's Corner Infrastructure Project includes improving wait times and improving signalization for pedestrians and bicyclists. The improvements in the Kelly's Corner Infrastructure Plan incorporate adding a new through lane on Main Street heading north, which will go into a new receiving lane on Main Street. There will also be a second left turn lane added on Massachusetts Avenue heading eastbound going north, which will improve the delays and wait times for all of the legs of the intersection.
Our correspondent, Raman Kenny, went down to West Acton Village to talk to the owner of the Silver Unicorn Bookstore.
A hidden gem in the heart of West Acton Village, a small bookstore has enough charm to fill a stadium, and the owner definitely knows his locals.
I'm here with Paul Swiden, the owner of the Silver Unicorn Bookstore in Acton. Paul, can you tell me how this whole idea started to start the store?
So the genesis for the idea was when Willow Books announced that it was going to be closing back in 2017, and I sort of got to thinking, you know, where am I supposed to buy books now? And a lot of my friends who have parents with small children were wondering the same thing. So I got to thinking, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
Is there anything behind the names? It's a very unique name, the Silver Unicorn.
Right. So I just like unicorns, and I feel like they're more ubiquitous than they used to be. We actually have a whole cookbook of just unicorn food that sells pretty well.
Unicorns are kind of hot right now. I don't know how that happened, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, but the unicorn bookstore didn't sound right to me, so it needed another word, and silver's my favorite color. So
there you have it.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of in this area right now where kids can kind of sit and read. Do you have like programs? Do you have reading days?
Mm-hmm. So we have story time every Saturday morning at 11 with an author. And this area just has a tremendous amount of local authors
That's true.
who write kids' books, and so we try to tap into that every Saturday. We also have a middle grade book club that's chapter books for kids like 8 to 12 years old that meets once a month on Tuesdays, and that's hosted by a local author as well. Her name is Rebecca Caprara.
And the adult book club, is that like a rolling thing, like anyone can kind of drop in and read the book?
Yep. We keep it low key. So if if you want to come and you read the book that month, great. If not, that's fine too. Just show up. We buy croissants from next door at Legend Cafe for our Friday morning book club. So we tell people just bring coffee and you're good to go.
That's awesome. I like the local businesses kind of connecting in that way. And so you also sell a lot of books, not just for kids, but for adults. Do you have like a favorite section that you really like to pull from?
I definitely tend more toward sci-fi and just fiction in general.
And then also you have an event coming up in Somerville. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So we are doing a pop-up bookstore in Somerville, February 9th to 18th, called A Whirlwind Romance, and it is just about romance books. Romance books actually make up over 1/3 of the U.S. fiction market.
I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know it because no one talks about them. So we're gonna have a pop-up store. It's just romance books. It's at Bow Market in Somerville, which is right in the middle of Union Square.
Okay.
So we're pretty excited about it, and we can't wait to see how it goes.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck in 2019. The store's doing great, and thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And if you're interested in learning more about future events at the Silver Unicorn, just visit silverunicornbooks.com.
Here is a behind-the-scenes look of the wastewater treatment facility here in Acton.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Thompson, the Chief Operator here at the Acton Wastewater Treatment Facility. I'm going to give you a brief tour of the facility. In the ground here we have storage tanks. We call them the influent storage tanks. Influent is the first introduction of wastewater into the plant. We're now going to go inside and I'll show you some of the equipment used to move the wastewater and treat the wastewater in the facility. Now we're inside the facility. I mentioned outside we had those influent storage tanks. We're now just inside the building. Those tanks are beyond the wall here, and we have these pumps that are going to lift the influent up into the treatment process to be filtered and screened before it'll advance further into the process. This is where the discharge from those pumps reaches. What it's doing here is we're measuring the flow into the facility. Then it goes through this, what we call a step screen. That removes rags and sticks and stones from the wastewater, so it won't jam up equipment further downstream. Just after the step screen is grit removal. That's where fine particulates are removed, like sand and gravel, maybe coffee grounds. We remove that as well. Then downstream from there, we add soda ash. Those are those bags of chemical here. Now that the influent has been screened and had the grit removal done and soda ash added, it is now flowing out of the main building and into the heart of the operation here, which is these big tanks. We call them sequencing batch reactor tanks. There's actually two in the ground here. The big covers here, there's one on each, so these covers are kind of like the midpoint. Right now we have about 18 feet of water in this tank. Actually in both tanks there's 18 feet of water, and there's various stages of treatment going on. We do all that within these tanks with the help of computer control. And then we'll go downstairs and we'll take a look at some of the equipment that's used to keep this operating. All right, now we're inside again with the SBR tanks beyond this wall. Each tank is basically on a slightly different schedule, so we're never at the same point in each tank. When one is done reacting, that would be all the biological processes are taking place. Then the reaction ends and we settle. All the solids is sunk to the bottom of the tank, and what remains on the surface is clear water. That's what we take off the tank. We take about a foot off. So we had 18 feet of water in there. At the end of that settled period, we're going to take 1 foot of the clear water off the very top of the tank through what we call a decanter. And there's this quick flow of water into a tank below our feet here, and that's what we call post-EQ, post-equalization tank. Post-EQ is then pumped through these pumps over here, and we'll go into the other room and I'll show you what we use for further treatment on what is now decanted water coming out of the SBRs. So those pumps are lifting the wastewater up just a little bit, about 10 feet through these lines, and it's going into these tanks, which are our polishing filters. So the post-EQ, or the decanted water, is very clear, but there's still some fine suspended particles in it, suspended as they're floating around, and we need to remove those as well. So we have this thing called a disc filter. Within the disc filter are these discs with cloth media on the disc, and the disc rotates around, and the water from post-EQ flows through the cloth. The solids are separated on the face of the cloth, and the clear water that went through the cloth will flow out through a weir over to UV disinfection. It's flowing through this bank of lights here. There's actually 4 UV bulbs. They're 2 feet long each, and they zap basically the water as it goes by. And then what comes out, the UV channel, is tested for, our key parameter is fecal coliform bacteria. So we monitor for that to make sure that the UV is effectively disinfecting the water. Flow just left the UV channel for disinfection. It's flowing into this tank below the floor here, which is actually our effluent holding tank. When that reaches a certain level, these pumps turn on. We then pump the wastewater treated at this point. It's been treated in the SBRs for all those dissolved pollutants. Nutrient removal has taken place. We've added alum in the SBRs for phosphorus removal. We've added soda ash, which helps us with nitrogen removal. So all of that's taken place within the SBRs. We've then sent it through the polishing filters to remove any fine suspended solids, through UV for disinfection. It's now going through the effluent pumps, and it's being pumped outside the facility to the rapid infiltration basins. The rapid infiltration basins, or RIBs, are big sand beds down on Adams and High Street. Those beds receive the water flowing on the surface, and the water slowly percolates through the sand, gets filtered a little bit more, but then it goes into the groundwater for recharge. So it's very important that we measure what comes into the facility and what leaves the facility so that we know how well we're doing with treating the wastewater. There's various sample points in the process that we also are taking samples. These are a couple from the SBRs. You can see they're solid settled at the bottom. We're partly doing what we call process monitoring to make sure that the SBR process is working properly. And we also do permit required sampling. So we'll have to particularly focus on effluent to make sure that we're removing the nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen, and BOD, which is a measure of the pollutant content of the wastewater. So we have a discharge permit that we're required by law to report every month how this facility is operating. And we also go over to the RIBs, the rapid infiltration beds, and monitor the groundwater around there and take samples out of the ground to make sure that the nutrient levels in the ground are very low, which they are, and that there's nothing funny or unusual going on in the groundwater around the RIBs. All right, so we're reaching the end of our tour. I want to thank you for joining us, and hopefully you've learned something on this walkthrough of the wastewater treatment facility. I want to also thank the town of Acton for allowing my company the opportunity to operate and maintain this facility. It's our goal to ensure the protection of public health and the environment. Thanks again.
We have so many great volunteers here, and here is Lisa Smith at Orange Door Kitchen to talk to Meredith Powell about this unique kitchen facility.
Hi, I'm Lisa Smith with ActonTV. We're here today at Orange Door Kitchen in West Acton with Meredith Powell, co-owner of the Orange Door Kitchen. Good morning, Meredith.
Hi, Lisa.
We'd love to know a little bit about what you do here at Orange Door Kitchen.
Great. So Orange Door Kitchen is primarily a shared commercial kitchen, which means that we rent our commercial kitchen space to small food businesses like caterers, personal chefs, and people that make small packaged goods for farmers markets. We're also an event space and a culinary studio. We're actually sitting in our culinary studio right now. So we do things like cooking classes, mixology classes, wine tastings, guest chef pop-up dinners, and then the whole space is also available for private events.
So when you first opened up, what kind of challenges did you face?
I think the biggest challenge was people understanding what we were. We're not a restaurant, and we open up, we sound like we might be a restaurant, Orange Door Kitchen, right? But we are a lot more than that. We're more concerned with creating community around interesting experiences around food. And so when people come here and they get a tour and they talk to myself and Chris, they get it, they understand what's going on here, but before that, it's a challenge to say, what is Orange Door Kitchen? We do a lot of things here, but we aren't a restaurant.
So what types of clientele do you attract?
I'd say that we, for the shared commercial kitchen, we attract caterers and personal chefs and small packaged goods companies. And then for our cooking classes, mixology classes, things that we do in the demonstration kitchen here, we attract local residents, people from surrounding towns who want to come out and have a really good time. So we sell tickets for those events online. And people come to see what we're all about, and they come to learn something new, to try something new. And then for the chef pop-up dinners, those are really fun. People want to meet strangers, talk to new people, sort of have community over food, and that's what we do here.
I'd love to hear more about people that rent out the kitchen for their own private business. How does that work?
Sure. So the people that rent our kitchen are small food entrepreneurs, and they are under contract with us, and they also have food permits with the town of Acton. So kind of the way it works is that they come in for a tour. We see if we're the right match for them, for their needs, for their business. And then we introduce them to the health department in Acton. And then, when all the pieces fall into place, they can come and start working here. We do our bookings for the kitchen online, so businesses reserve the times they need, and they come and go as they please. We're here, our hours for the kitchen are business hours though, so we're open 8:30 to 5:30, Monday through Saturday.
Okay, and you also host private events here?
We do, yes.
Okay, and what kind of private events do you typically get?
We've had lots of fun with private events. We've done everything from Sweet 16 to bridal showers, baby showers, corporate events. We do corporate retreats here, which is really great. So we're AV equipped here, and so we have a projection screen, and we can set up the dining room like a boardroom. We also do private cooking classes for team building exercises, that type of thing. And so we do have a lot of fun. Outside of the small events, we do larger events. So the space holds up to 65 people.
Okay.
And we've had great big networking events here that have been very fun. We do have a full liquor license, so we can do beer, wine, and liquor, which helps for parties.
Well, thank you so much, Meredith, for allowing us to come in here today. Really appreciate it. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you taking the time out. And if you want to find out more about Orange Door Kitchen, visit their website, orangedoorkitchen.com.
Hi, George Cox for ActonTV. We are here with Chris Flisher, our house astrologer, and from the show Turning of the Wheel. And today we're going to talk about Mercury in retrograde, which started on March 5th, and how it pertains to you. So first of all, people who have never heard of Mercury in retrograde, what exactly is it?
I mean, it does have it has a certain sort of a urban myth to it, but it really is valid, I think, and it's a very valid time. What it is that Mercury, the planet Mercury, appears to be going backwards from our view on Earth. It never goes backwards, but it appears to go backwards from our view on Earth because of our speed of our orbit and its faster speed. Actually, this is sort of thing, so it looks as if it's going backwards. It's kind of the same theory when you're in the car on the highway and you see a wheel spinning. It looks as if it's going backwards, even though it's going forward. It's that same sort of, it's a weird motion thing. Anyway, what it typically means, though, is it happens about 3 times a year. It lasts about 3 weeks, but there's a longer shadow period before and after, which is also part of it. And Mercury in astrology is the planet of communication and all mechanical devices. So things break. You and I were just sitting here. It took us 3 times to get this right because we kept doing things wrong. Things weren't in place. Batteries weren't there. Classic Mercury retrograde kind of stuff. And most people run for the hills when they hear the term Mercury retrograde because they get scared. They, oh my God, we're going to have an argument and the refrigerator is going to break. And that does happen more frequently during a Mercury retrograde period. There are mechanical failures, also a lot of miscommunications, misinterpretations, and all those things are there. But I actually think there's a positive part to it. In particular, because it allows us to anything. You take the prefix re, and put it in front of another word that you want to reevaluate, reinvest, refinance, reconsider, whatever the word may be, repeat. whatever the word may be that has that there, it allows you a chance to maybe back out of a problem that you've been involved with, or reconsider a different approach to a problem. So it does allow that as well. So there's a good part of it that's accurate. This particular Mercury retrograde is in Pisces, directly opposite Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. So it becomes a little bit more funky in that regard. And also it has been joined by the Sun, which is in Pisces right now, and by Neptune, which is the ruling planet of Pisces. So, and Neptune is classically obfuscation. In other words, it's illusion and delusion. So when you think about fake news and you think about the concept of Mercury retrograde, it is perfect when it comes to Neptune and Mercury retrograde together, because it's all dispelling a false narrative. I always use the scene at the end of The Wizard of Oz as the best one because it explains it perfectly. There's a guy behind the curtain doing this, doing that, and Toto pulls the curtain back, and then we see what's going on, and it all becomes revealed. And it's interesting because we've had so much in our public policy and turmoil, our political turmoil lately, about things like this, about people testifying, coming forth, revealing, and all that stuff. It just fits in classically. This will be up, it'll station direct on March 28th. When it stations direct, it's usually more potent at that time. So on the 28th of March, there's more likely to be more mechanical failures and disjointed conversations and that stuff. And then it goes forward, but because it went backwards by degree, it has to go forward over the same area which it went through. So that's called the shadow period. So we really won't be technically out of this particular Pisces Mercury retrograde until April 16th, when it goes to that spot and then beyond.
So I think that St. Patty's Day next Sunday is going to be really fun.
It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a good time for you, for sure. If you're doing your thing, it's going to be pretty wild. But I think that all planets go retrograde except for the Sun and the Moon. Those two don't. But when those planets do go retrograde, and you pay attention to that, you contact me, chrisflisher.com, attorneythewheel.com. When you contact me, I can tell you when those planets are going to go retrograde. And those are times when you do go through that review process. Review. It's all about review. And again, it's the same thing. The planet's not going backwards. It just appears to be going backwards from our view.
Right, so this is great advice, and remember, just try to make it work for you, not against you.
Make it work for you,
really
because you can. And astrology is a dualistic modality, so for every wrong that is prevalent, there's an equally positive. So you may be in the middle of, reconsidering your relationship with somebody. You had a bad argument because Mercury was in retrograde, and all of a sudden you're reconsidering your relationship. These are just simple examples of how it can work out.
Excellent. Well, there it is, Mercury in retrograde explained. If you want more information, you can visit turningofthewheel.com, and you can watch all his shows about astrology and how it pertains to you right here at ActonTV. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
If you enjoy the programming here at ActonTV, find out about sponsorship opportunities at actontv.org. And remember to support your local cable access. For all of us at Talk of the Town, we want to wish you a great week. I'm George Cox. We'll see you again next time.